And on Sunday morning, when we were on our way to the art show, I get a text from my coordinator, and it was very hateful, manipulative, bullying text, basically telling me to submit my power to her. And literally the words that were used were, "You owe me this from obligation." And I just read that text and I was like, oh, no, no, no. And in a moment, I understood the universe was bringing me my answer. So I wrote her back and I was like, we need to talk. I have messages to share and I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. And boom, I made the decision. Well, this day I'm at this art show, and this is just hours later that I'm going to sponsor this child. And this makes no logical sense. Like, I just dropped my job. I have no anchor down. I have no secure, for sure, anything coming. But in my heart, I knew, like, I can do this, and this is something I'm meant to do. And so this is what we're going to talk about today, is like, how do we get ourselves to live in such an inspired way that we really honor the heart's calling, and we don't ignore it because of fear, because of a sense of security, or a sense of that we just lost security from a logical place that really isn't any more true than it ever has been. I mean, the fears we have are all illusion. And so what was cool is, like, I had gone over and I listened to my heart and I answered the call and I supported and sponsored this child, and I felt so good about it. There was no obligation, guilt at all. It was like complete, I can help that family in an amazing way. And then I knew I could also speak publicly, and I told her I would, to bring more attention to what they're doing, and maybe a lot of you feel inspired, and this will ripple effect and we'll pay it forward. But what was cool is when I came back, you know, the day before, I'd asked to sell at least a clock. And so I just signed up this child, and I walk back to my booth, and right then 2 women come into my booth. And right away, one woman just loves one of my clocks, and she's going on about it. And she's like, I'm going to buy this. And I was like, really? I'm so excited. And so I gave her a big hug, and I was like, thank you. I'm so grateful that you want to buy one of my clocks. And so that was pretty cool. And I was like, yay, I sold a clock. And then the other woman, she starts checking out a clock, and she's like, I think I'm going to buy this clock. And she's kind of trying to talk herself out of it. And then her friends are like, no, you really should buy it. And so long story short, she wanted me to tweak it a little bit and change the hands, and I did. And so she bought a clock. So I came back, we're breaking down our booth. It's like 5 minutes to closing, and I sold 2 clocks. And I just smiled and felt so much gratitude that I knew the universe, my angels, were totally shining down on me. And they were just like, good job, Tanya. And I can just feel it. And so I want to talk about that with all of you, because I observe how many people that struggle, that aren't as happy as they could be. It's because of fear. And I know that if we can start getting to this place where we honor our connection with Source, and we honor the fact that we are so loved and supported, that why would we be left stranded? If we can stop believing in that fairy tale that we've been taught by fearful humans, we will start to really use our energy in a much more powerful way. And we'll start answering the call as they come with yeses. Right. And we'll say no to the obligation, hateful people. And I just feel like it was such a powerful shift in my life, where I was just like, done, not going to tolerate that anymore. It is obviously time for me to move on. But I didn't need to be angry. I didn't need to be depressed. I didn't be like, oh, what did I do wrong? Why don't they love me? Why don't they respect me? I just realized I asked the angels to give me a sign. They gave it to me. Thank you. I answer, I move forward. And so if we can start living like this, we really don't need to waste our energy with depression or regret or sadness or confusion, because we really always are getting the clear messages. And with divination, I feel like what most of us do, and what I did most of my life, so I say this humbly, is we ask for signs, we ask to be guided, and then the signs will come and we're like, oh shit, I'm not ready for that. Don't want to hear that. And so we just ignore them, and we just argue with our own intuition, and we stay with that husband we shouldn't, or we stay at that job that doesn't appreciate us, or we keep, tolerating abuse from a friend that really just takes from us. And so if we can really get better at trusting that the universe wants you to thrive, every one of you I'm talking to are worthy of thriving and of doing amazing and of having the joy that you love in your life and of living the highest fulfilling life of your dreams, every one of you. But sadly, every one of you, I'm pretty sure at some level, has been trained to believe otherwise. So from very young, we're conditioned to think we're not quite good enough, we're not quite worthy, or sometimes we're conditioned to think we're way better than, and then that stimulates a different kind of ego. But when we're in that place where I feel a lot of humanity is right now, which is coming back to self-love and returning home to yourself, this is so important to start practicing this art of divination, which can work from anything from I ask for a sign and an animal comes in my yard in a specific way, and I tune into that animal's medicine and I ask it for deeper guidance and understanding, to I'm driving along and I see somebody pull in front of me right when I'm making a decision about some big thing in my life, and then I see the license plate 555 in front of me. I'm like, huh. And so all these different things, these different signs are the way the universe is trying to talk to us. And if we really like a certain kind of sign, we can ask for that to be given more often, because really you're the director. All of you are the director of your movie. So if you really like things to come in a certain way, if you like your lessons to be gentle, you call that forth. You call forth gentle lessons. If you really want to have an ass kicking and you think, oh, I like to learn the hard way and I like to suffer because that makes me feel like I'm more deserving of what I earned, then you're going to call that forth. But really, you're all calling it forth yourself. And so as we can get to this place where we fine-tune our gifts of discernment and we really start to trust that the whole entire universe wants good for us, we will start to learn how to ask the question and then be quiet. That's a big part of it. Ask the question, be quiet, be still, remember that you are one with your source, and you start watching for the guidance. And so in this case, my personal story that I'm sharing, I share purposely because a lot of times I know I purposely create situations so I can express it publicly and I can show you all how this can relate to your human experience. And then I'll be like, okay, let's move on. And so in this case, I'm showing you that it doesn't matter if it's a career. I've shown you times where I've talked about leaving a 23-year relationship in a marriage that I deeply loved that man, but that man was not ready or willing to love me in the way I knew I deserved. And so these can be really challenging, kick your ass lessons at times, but if you trust that when you know something's not right and you ask the universe to guide you, and then the guidance comes, we need to honor and respect that guidance as sacred truth, because it is. And I'll give you examples, which I have on the show a few times, but way back when I was in this marriage that wasn't really healthy or happy, years and years ago, my children were younger. And I remember one time being in San Francisco, and I was asking my angels in my mind, like just quietly, because back then no one talks about these things. So I just keep it all silent and inside of myself. But I'm like, angels, please give me a sign if this is just not the right relationship. And like, where do I go? I'm so confused. I just don't feel loved. I don't feel respected. And everywhere we went in San Francisco that day, I swear to God, I saw the number 555 like 20 times. It was crazy. I honestly don't think I've seen the same number that many times since then. But it was like everywhere I looked, it's like 5 cookies for 555. And then the taxi cab was like 555. Right when I looked at it, I see a license plate 555. It's like everywhere I was looking, I saw that number. And this is back when I didn't really understand as much about angel numbers, but I knew in my deepest knowing that shit meant something. I just didn't really know what it meant. And I knew that there was some deeper meaning. So sometimes we're in that learning phase where we're trying to understand and discern the messages. And this is what I've learned is when I have that kind of thing going on, I will pull away from the world and I'll go into stillness in my meditation place. And I will ask for deeper clarity and understanding. Or I'll go on a nature hike and I'll just be quiet and I'll ask my angels, please bring me deeper clarity and understanding on this situation. And suddenly consciousness will start streaming through and I will start to understand and know things about the certain situation I'm asking about. So I say this because way back then I was getting those signs. I remember a time where I was free writing, where I was communicating with spirits, like people who had passed on would come and talk to me. And I was just like, what is happening? I just need to keep a notebook about this. So I would tune in meditation. Hey, is anybody here that needs help? I would listen. I would write notes. And then I would just be guided on who to share those messages with. And so I remember one time practicing free writing, and my angels were like, it is time to say goodbye. It is time to let go. This is not where you belong. And this was back in like 2002. So I'm just saying, there's been so many times when I look back and I'm honest that I know my guides and my angels were telling me guidance, but I was ignoring it and I was scared of it and I didn't believe in myself. And so the ones of you that are really struggling, it's not because your guides aren't helping you. It's not because your angels aren't coming through with messages. It is because at a deeper level, you do not believe in yourself and you don't think you're worthy and you really don't trust. You don't trust the universe. You don't trust that there's enough money. You don't trust that there's enough time. You don't trust that there's enough support. And so because you're really primarily focused on fear, that is what you're experiencing. And that is what's keeping you stuck in those bad relationships. Bad meaning less than exciting and less than joyous. And it's what's keeping you at that job that doesn't respect you. It's what's keeping you as a healer giving it all away and you're not really receiving love and abundance back. And so when you start to realize you deserve and that you are worthy, and then you trust that your angels, when they bring you a sign that it is sacred and you should really listen to it and go and march confidently in the direction of your dreams and watch how everything starts just happening for you. And it really does. This last week, I quit my job on, well, I guess I gave my notice Sunday morning. I was like, done, not tolerating that. And I said I would give my 2-week notice. It wasn't handled very beautifully, and I was told, don't even bother coming back. Then a couple days later, I had a meeting with the head manager, and she was very grateful to talk to me so I could share my side of that situation and share my concerns. And she was taking notes and said there was going to be meetings about improving leadership and improving the safety and all this stuff that I was addressing. So I knew I was to be a messenger for greater change. And this happens to me a lot. And sometimes I'm not there to see that change. Sometimes I'm just there to ignite that message and to give it over. And then those changes will happen when they're ready. But I say that in that few days' time, I could have gone into fear. And I know that a lot of you are relating to me at some level. We're probably mirroring this where, let's say some of you have just been challenged and your relationship just ended, or you know that it's time to let one go. Or some of you may be in a job and you know it's never really been very respectful and you don't really feel seen. You don't feel like you can be fully in your power. And so if some of you are letting things go right now or you're feeling guided to, I promise you that as you move confidently in the direction of your dreams with love and eagerness and excitement and trust that you are on the right path and that your angels love you and they're going to support you for standing your ground and for standing up for what matters to you. If you don't believe you deserve love, you won't really let it come in. You will let relationship after relationship come in that will not give you the love you deserve because at a deep level, you don't feel you deserve it. And if you're working really hard for money and you're on the hamster wheel every week, working, you might get money, but then it's like, where does it go? Or it doesn't feel very fulfilling. Or maybe you work hard and you don't get much money. And it's because you're at some level not believing you deserve it. And you need to take a stand for that. And you need to move in a direction of empowerment. So a couple days after I made this choice, this just last week, I manifested $1,100 in a couple days as a healer, doing what I love, helping the world, helping heal souls at a deep level, helping inspire them as a soul coach, getting them ignited, empowered, and they're benefiting, and so am I. And this is what Tanya Love is here to do. And so, like the show, what I do as a healer, that's my magic. That's what I love. And so sometimes we will, as humans, take a little vacation from our heaven and go visit hell for a while. Not a true hell, but for me, it was that bike camp and being treated like a slave at a job that I was barely making any money for. And I was only doing it to be helpful, but it felt like it was coming from obligation and like I was being guilted into it. So I've had to really watch that as an empath. I love people and I want to help them. And one of my things I've had to really work on in myself is that I